My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask pardon for my sins and the grace to make these moments of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. When we encounter Jesus in today's Gospel, we find him shortly after he's received a visit from some disciples of John the Baptist, who obviously wanted to know while he was in prison, is this really the Messiah we're waiting for, the person I'm hearing about? So Jesus responds to the disciples of John the Baptist, and then he turns to the crowd with a discourse that seems to say, more than anything else, you don't understand the greatness of what you have seen. He's talking, of course, about John the Baptist himself, trying to explain how great he is. And then today's Gospel begins. Truly I tell you, says Jesus, among those born of woman, no one has arisen greater than John the Baptist, yet the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Well, that certainly is surprising me. No one born of woman has been greater than John the Baptist. What about Abraham? He's the father of our faith, in a certain sense the founding patriarch of the whole of the Jewish religion. And if not him, what about Moses? Moses for the Jews was the central figure. Well, we could go on with a list of astonishingly great figures in the history of Judaism. But admittedly, we weren't there, so Jesus, we can probably handle this idea that John the Baptist was the greatest of all. We trust you. You were there, you knew. We don't have first-hand experience, and if anyone was going to know the answer to this question, it was obviously going to be you. But the next part, that the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he? Well, hang on. That does seem a tad bit excessive, like one of those hyperboles the Jews were so fond of. Are you really saying that every average John or Jane Doe Catholic is greater than John the Baptist? We don't look greater, let's be honest here. In fact, if we're completely sincere, we look really, really normal. And then, of course, you and I, we stop and think, well, Jesus must be right. So what does it mean? Again, Jesus is hinting to us that you don't understand. But this time he's not talking about John the Baptist. This time he's telling us, you don't understand how great is the gift that I give to you. You see, the kingdom of heaven is made up not merely of people, but of children of God. That's what we don't understand. We fall in the trap of thinking that we are just the same, just more people. But a person who's a child of God, what does that mean? Obviously we know that means technically, theologically speaking, to share in God's own life, but we don't understand. We don't really understand how great that is. Just pause and contemplate that fact for 1 second. That being children of God means we share in the inner life of the Blessed Trinity. We are, in a certain sense, part and parcel of who God is. That's absolutely mind-blowing. That's something we certainly don't understand. And even more to the point, we don't understand the full effect that has on our relationship with God. Well, just listen to St. Paul as he tells Timothy, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself. Now that's astonishing. So strongly does he see us as his children that he can't possibly deny us because we are part of who he is. It would be like denying his very self. If, humanly speaking, that bond between a parent and a child is so strong, well, even more so, and much more so, it is between God and his children, because he makes them part of himself. I don't know if you're a fan of Charles Dickens, but he wrote, amongst many novels, one called Bleak House. And there's a certain character in the book by the name of Lady Dedlock. She's a woman of enormous beauty, great talent. She married extraordinarily well, but she is plagued by her past. You see, she had a baby to a different man before being married, and tragically had to give up the baby at birth. Well, the problem for Lady Dedlock is that that daughter is part of who she is. She can't let her go. And she's never at peace because of that. Because the love that she has for her daughter is always there. The daughter that, curiously enough, she's never really been with. And she feels completely unable to let her go. And then, to make things even worse, she feels unable to acknowledge it because she doesn't understand that her husband's love for her surpasses all her prior feelings. Like he is so madly in love with her that anything she could have done in her prior life is inconsequential. Why? Because he's interested in her and not at all perturbed about anything she might have done wrong. Well, the novel takes us through the trials of this poor woman who is madly in love with her child, whom she cannot deny, and who doesn't realize that she herself is madly loved and cannot be denied. And here we find two aspects of the way that we are children of God. First, that just the same as she loves her child, the child whom she has never really seen, the child she's never really been with, well, God can't help but love us because we're his children. It would even be in his case to turn away from himself, so much as he considers us a part of him. Even he tells us more than a mother, as he puts on the lips of the prophet Isaiah, can a woman forget her nursing child, or show no compassion for the child of her womb? Even these may forget, yet I will not forget you. And so he wants us to know that even the burning love that a mother has for her child cannot equal the depth of the bond that he shares with us, his children. And then also there's a little bit of Lady Dedlock in us that we don't understand. With all her burning love, she couldn't comprehend that someone else, her husband, loved her just as much. Well, us too, for all that we have, and maybe we don't feel ourselves filled with burning love, but all too readily we forget that God cannot deny us. No matter what we have done, no matter what we do, it doesn't limit God's bond with us. It doesn't limit it, and it can't limit it, because the bond we have with him transcends what we do. It's based on who we are, now that we are children of God. Lord Jesus, we look to you knowing that we don't understand, that we can rationalize it, we can think about it and understand in a kind of intellectual manner, but that we don't fully comprehend the depth of this that you want to teach us. We see you teaching us patiently, as always, and we want to learn the lesson. I mean, you know how much we would love to be convinced of the greatness of being children of God, but with such intangible things, we're really slow learners. So then, if there's one petition that we can put before you in today's prayer, maybe it's to ask you to help us to be so convinced that we will even feel ourselves children of God. Well, today being the 12th of December is obviously also the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. This great miracle that brought so many souls to come to know Jesus Christ and hence to become children of God. Here we see from what happened in Mexico and throughout the Americas that history shows us that the maternity of Mary has the singular role of bringing us closer to her Son. But today, having spent our time in prayer contemplating the great dignity of being children of God, we ask her not merely to bring us closer to Jesus Christ, but also to give us the gift of knowing what it means to be a child of God, and for the help to live always with the joy and the dignity of someone who has that honor. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations which you have communicated to me in this time of prayer. I ask your assistance in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.